This topic sounds dramatic, and honestly, kind of it is. Hypersexuality in narcissistic personalities. We've touched on this before a bit, but now we're zooming out and looking at the full system, how it works, why it exists, and why some incredibly charming people somehow leave a trail of emotional chaos behind them. We will also talk about those fatal attraction types, the magnetic men and women who seem irresistible, right up until they emotionally ruin your week, your month, or in some cases, even your entire personality. And quick reality check. If you're waiting for such a person to suddenly wake up one morning, one day and say, you know what, I changed. That's very optimistic of you. Change here usually requires awareness, effort, and often therapy, not a romantic miracle. Not love. What hypersexuality looks like. And it's not about fun. At first glance, hypersexuality might look like someone just living their best life, but under the hood, it's a bit more complicated. Typical signs include things like a high number of sexual encounters partners, frequent partner changes, and this is the key, a shocking lack of lasting satisfaction. Again, shocking lack of lasting satisfaction. Even when it happens, it's not that durable. Very quickly, the internal tension comes back, demanding a repeat performance. So what's really going on? Sex here isn't about pleasure. It's about emotional regulation. This femme fatale, heartbreaker archetype. Previously we explored this through the classic femme fatale image, like mysterious, seductive, impossible to ignore. These people, they tend to be highly attractive, not just physically, but also psychologically. They tend to pull others in with ease. They juggle multiple relationships. It sounds glamorous, yeah, but until you're the one who's involved. Because behind the charm, there's often difficulty with deep emotional connection, lack of stable attachment, and a tendency to leave partners feeling not great. And just to be fair, this is not gender specific. Narcissistic dynamic play out in both men and women. Psychoanalytics core when the problem actually leaves classic psychoanalytic love. We blame things on early childhood, and for once it has a point. Traditionally, issues like infidelity are linked to the Oedipal stage, like ages from 3 to 6 years. But narcissistic hypersexuality, it goes deeper. And here's the idea. Sexuality becomes tied directly to the self-worth. For an erotic person, sex is not identity. For a narcissistic personality, it's if I am desired, I exist, I matter. And the unconscious mind, not exactly a logic professor. It can connect totally unrelated things or disconnect things that obviously belong together to each other. So imagine how twisted it is. That's why therapy often looks like untangling a very messy set of psychological headphones. And a classic relationship example, couples often say, we argued, so we didn't have sex. As if those things are legally married. In reality, conflict and intimacy are separate systems, but people unconsciously fuse them. Going deeper, the pre-Oedipal layer. Here's where things get more foundational. The roots of narcissistic patterns often lie in early childhood, before the Oedipal stage. This is where your sense of self-worth is formed. Your emotional regulation system is built, and your relationship with your primary caregiver, often the mother, sets the tone. Which leads us to a big question. Why isn't one partner even ever enough? Reason 1. Satisfaction never fully lands. After a healthy sexual experience, most people, they feel relaxation, they satisfied, they temporarily complete. For a narcissistic personality, not really. Why is that? Because they are not just bringing desire into the experience, they bringing a mission. They brew wars, they confirm attractiveness, they stabilize self-esteem. And sex, unfortunately, is not designed to fix existential insecurity. And here's the result: no real relaxation, tension stays, a repeat cycle initiated. Reason 2. Fear of losing self-worth. Underneath everything sits a quiet but persistent anxiety. What if I'm not enough? This fear spreads across different life areas and aspects. It intensifies during interactions. It demands constant reassurance. For example, a narcissistic man might think, will I satisfy her? Will I prove myself again? And just like that, we get a loop. Anxiety, new partner, temporary validation, and anxiety returns and repeat forever, or at least until intervention. At this point, multiple relationships aren't a preference, they are psychological coping mechanism. So that's the first part of the video. The second part I will record soon. See you later, and write your thoughts, comments about hypersexuality. Have you ever met such a person which was with a lot of partners not being satisfied? This is a very interesting topic, and we will carry on talking about this in the next video. I love you. Bye.